Hey everyone, today we're going to take a quick look at Mass Effect Andromeda running on the 2016 13-inch MacBook Pro. And yes, all this footage that you're seeing was recorded on my MacBook Pro, despite the game having some rather serious issues even getting started on this hardware. I actually recorded this footage when the game first came out, but I've been holding it back for a couple weeks hoping that EA would patch some of the problems. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like it's actually EA's problem to fix, which I'll explain a little later on. Now, if you've already tried running this game on any computer with an Iris 540 or 550 graphics card, you've probably spent a lot of time staring at this screen. There's a bug with these graphics chipsets that cause the loading time to take probably 100 times longer than it would on a normal computer, maybe even more. A lot of people are reporting this as a black screen bug when they start the game, because it takes a BioWare logo about 5 minutes just to show up. But if you actually had the patience to wait out the loading screen, you'd be greeted with the main menu that runs very smoothly. Unfortunately, once you decide to start your game, you're going to get dumped right back into another loading screen, and this one takes a lot longer than the initial one. This is where most people basically gave up. Now the good news is that once you get past this loading screen, everything else in the game actually loads really quickly. Every other loading screen in the game seems to move at a normal speed, it's just the first two that are extremely slow. Now I mentioned earlier that I don't think this is a bug that EA can fix. That's because I accidentally found the actual problem while trying to troubleshoot the loading issues. The real problem is actually with Intel's graphics drivers, specifically the Iris 540 and 550 ones. As a troubleshooting step, I completely removed the Intel Iris drivers from my computer, leaving it with only basic VGA drivers. While I was moving on with my troubleshooting, I forgot to reinstall the latest drivers, and actually started the game with only the basic VGA ones installed. It was very surprising the game loaded almost instantly. Unfortunately, without proper drivers, the actual game was unplayable, but the loading screens were 100 times faster. So here's the good news. This has happened to Intel before, and in the past they've released updated drivers to fix similar problems. I provided all the information I had on this problem to Intel to hopefully help them develop better drivers for this game, so now it's just a matter of waiting and seeing how long it takes them to release. In the meantime though, since the game runs pretty well once it actually gets loaded, why don't we take a look at how it performs on the MacBook Pro with Iris 550. Now, I'm running this at the absolute lowest possible detail settings, but it is running at a full 720p with no resolution scaling on. So this is a brand new game, and probably the most demanding one I've tried to play on this computer. It runs on the Frostbite engine, the same engine that runs Battlefield 1, but this game isn't optimized for multiplayer, so you're going to see a lot lower frame rates in it because of that. The upside, though, is that the game looks really good, even on the lowest detail settings. You can see our frame rate in some of these more open areas is actually only in the mid-teens. I don't see it get this low very often. It's usually the low 20s where it hangs around. Scenes where there's a lot of enemies on screen actually tend to run even higher in the frame rate, so I'm assuming there's some optimization going on there. Cutscenes like this one are actually rendered in-game, so that frame rate is real time. They actually seem to have a bit higher frame rate than the gameplay, but that's probably because they're mostly close-ups like this. The graphics also look exactly how they should. I've run this same game on a desktop with a GeForce 1060 graphics card, and all the coloring and shaders look the same, just obviously lower quality. I mentioned earlier that this game runs on the same engine as Battlefield 1, and that means that a lot of the graphics tweaks that you could do in Battlefield 1 with config files also work in this game. That should allow you to get some extra performance out of it without affecting visual quality too much. I also tried playing around with the in-game resolution scaling just to see how that affected performance. As you can see here, although the frame rate takes a big jump up, the game looks absolutely terrible running at a resolution scale of 0.6, so I'd imagine that you don't want to use this option if at all possible. It is important to remember though that this game is running completely unoptimized on this hardware. Once Intel releases updated drivers with better support like they did for Battlefield 1, this game should not only run better, but it should also get rid of the loading screen bugs that we're seeing right now. At this point in time, I can't really recommend you try and play this game on the 2016 MacBook Pro. Sure, it runs okay and it's completely playable once you're in, but that half hour of loading at the start is just too much for a lot of people to sit through. Intel has a pretty good track record of supporting newer games on their graphics cards, And maybe there's even something EA can do, although at this point I'm thinking it's pretty much up to Intel to support their cards. Once again though, I've got to say I'm pretty impressed that this little laptop that's just over half an inch thick is able to run this AAA game at all. This is a brand new release, and a couple years ago you wouldn't have seen this running on any of the base model Mac hardware. Intel's really stepped up their game with these latest Iris graphics chips, and Apple's done a great job engineering their hardware to get the most out of them without overheating. Once Intel releases drivers that support this game properly, I'll take a look and see how performance has improved. With any luck, we should see this game holding closer to 30 frames per second like its console counterparts. In the meantime, I'll leave you with some more gameplay footage here, so if you really want to take the plunge and try this game out on your MacBook, you'll know what to expect. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching.
Got their attention. Are those dogs? I wish. They've got some weird cloaking ability. You're shitting me. Sound off. I'm here. Still alive. Here. Present. I can't get a beat on those things. Just keep firing. We can do this. Harry, you guys okay? Not dead yet. It's when do rocks float? Just go with it.